Hello everyone, this is, it's me. We're back for another video. But I first want to say that the channel name that I had been using is no longer being used because of the fact that I changed it because it was just a placeholder. So there's that. You know, you can see it when you click on the video, what it actually is going to be changed to. So there's that, but let's get on with the review. Today, we're going over the book War Secrets by almost got them switched over. There's Phil Kelly. I was about to say Kelly Phil. So there's that. And in this book, it follows a Primaris Space Marine known as Lieutenant Farren. If you don't know what a Primaris Space Marine is, it's basically like the new type of Space Marine. And because of that, you can kind of tell that it takes place kind of around the Indominus Crusade, where Primarch of the Ultramarines, Rabute Gilliman, comes back. He revives. He's no longer dead. He's changing up the Imperium. It's like a new frontier, so to speak. And in this book, Lieutenant Farren and his squad of Primaris Marines, who are with the Dark Angels, they are tasked with doing lots of different things. Like we have in this book we have fighting Tau, Chaos, and the Fallen. There's gonna be Tau in here if you like Tau. People, I don't know why you would. We have the Fallen, Dark Angels. I wouldn't expect it to not center around that in some way regard. So there's that, and that's pretty much like the overview of the book. It mainly centers on the idea that Lieutenant Farren and his other Primaris Marines, they are originally going to this planet to, stomp out Xeno worshippers, specifically for the Tau and their greater good. And they encounter these worshippers, but they also encounter some weird things that are going on, and that in itself is the main driving plot for the entire story. This story also follows, it follows the Tau, specifically the commander of the fourth, I think it's the 4th tier expansion. I don't know, I couldn't be bothered to actually look it up in the book, just because it's been a little while since I've read it. So there's that, it follows that. Then it also follows one of the Fallen for a short period of time. So there's that. Let's see, who else does it follow? It also follows kind of like a somewhat-ish former worshipper of the, like a human worshipper of the greater good, known as the Tau Va in Taoish. I don't know, don't really care, don't like the Tau. So there's that. And it kind of centers around the culmination of all these events. So there's that. What's it called? As for a book, it's actually a very interesting read. That being said, I did have some problems with it. I was really interested in Farren's story, as well as the former greater good worshipper, the heretic. The thing being is that I didn't I didn't really like going with Tau in their arc of the story, mainly due to the fact I don't like the Tau. I don't know many people who do. Of course there are some filthy heretics who do like them. I don't know what for. So that part can get kind of plain. It can kind of drag on. You kind of want to go back to the other stories there, and so there's that. It doesn't really catch you, and it's really annoying. So yeah, there's that. As for a explanation of what I think of the book, I like it. I think it's probably about a 4 out of 5-ish. That's kind of where I would put it. Mainly due to the fact that the story and the uncovering the plot as to what's going on, because Lieutenant Farren there's some like weird stuff going on with him, and he doesn't exactly know what's going on, and it's mainly about him trying to figure out what that is. And that in itself is really, really, really interesting. And that is definitely worth the price of admission, at least in my thought. So yeah, like as a review, I would definitely think this book would be worth checking out, especially if you like the Dark Angels, if you're interested in the idea of the Primaris Marines, or if you're interested in the Tau for whatever reason. I don't know why you would, but if you are, there it is. Yeah. So that's my thoughts on the book. Join me for spoilers here in just a second. Okay, we're back for the spoilers section. In this section, I'm gonna talk about what interesting moments I thought about in the book. The interesting moments. I would think it would have like one of the more interesting things I'd have to think about is Lieutenant Farren. The main mystery that revolves around him is that he give me a second. Okay, sorry about that. But he mainly, like, he has like a big sense of deja vu with him and his Primaris like soldiers. There's a lot of things like happening in very similarity to each other. Like he may like in the story, like it mainly is like, oh, here he is on this drop ship, and it's like going through the motions, and it kind of like always comes back to that, and he starts to realize that this is kind of different because he doesn't really remember where he got to the drop ship on during these missions. Like it's just like boom, he wakes up in the drop ship and it's mission time. Which you would think would be kind of normal for a space marine, but there's like weird clues that this might not be the case, mainly due to the fact that like the Dark Angels are a chapter of Space Marines that do not like the Primaris at all. They just don't like them. So it becomes quite clear that, like, especially early on, that the Dark Angels kind of see the Primaris as kind of like cannon fodder. And that kind of, of course, that would rub anybody the wrong way if you were used as cannon fodder. And so Farren, he really tries to like understand why this is going on. And it basically culminates into the fact that the Dark Angels are wary about giving information about the Fallen to the Primaris, which this is resolved at the end into the book. Like they do get inducted into a new order to find the Fallen, so they're like bros now, despite trying to kill them on many occasions and killing several important characters that are important to Farren. So I don't really know how that works. I mean, I guess you just have to be kind of like a Space Marine thing. I guess a normal human wouldn't really be able to really understand that motivation, but to each their own. So there's that. The second thing is with the Tau. What makes it interesting about the Tau, even though I just said that I didn't really like the Tau, but there's one inclination I liked about the Tau in this book, is that they are very much, at least the higher ups are in this fourth tier of expansion, are very, very anti every race but Tau. They do not like, and that's because like before the events of the book happen, it is very like you get kind of like a flashback, and basically the Tau have stolen warp technology from the Imperium, and that would be interesting for the implications of that. Problem being is they go into warp without a Geller field. And if you don't know what a Geller field is, a Geller field is kind of like a shield, but mainly for going through the warp, so no demons jump up onto your ship and kill you. So it's very important to warp travel. And the Tau don't have this. They just stole the warp engine from the Imperium. So they meet with very, very, very bad consequences, and they're basically stuck in the warp for a long period of time. And you can definitely see how that would be bad. But while they're there, they get the sense that like the psychic emissions from the other races that the Tau have like integrated into their work and like into the worship of the greater good. And by worship, I mean it's kind of a misnomer. They don't really worship the greater good. It's more of a tenet, and they're like, oh wait, all these other races are worshiping the greater good when it should be they should just be following it. And that's creating kind of like a weird amalgamation entity in the warp, kind of like the god of the greater good, which is they really don't like that because the greater good's not supposed to be a god. So their idea is to let's kill all the everybody who's not Tau, which kind of fits in line with most of all the races in the 40K universe. That, it's not surprising. I was wondering when the Tau were going to do that. So there's that. The other thing I really liked about this is that it follows like the ex-Tau worshipper, this chick. I don't remember her name, mainly just because you don't really follow her that much as far as I remember in the book. I think that's not really a thing. But basically, it kind of basically Lieutenant Farren lets her go because he's like, hey, this might help me find out what, at the beginning of the book, what is going on. And I don't really quite believe the orders that I'm being given, so I'm just going to let her go and try to figure out what's going on. Because the Dark Angels order the death of everybody on her planet, but not in like the exterminatus sense. Just like, hey, there's this thing that they need to get taken off the planet from. If they don't, they're going to die. We're just going to let them die. And he doesn't agree with that because he's like, well, we just kind of like stopped them from worshiping the Tau because they didn't know what the fuck they were doing. So basically they're like, oh, well, why don't you go and get people to help you get off the planet? There is a significant problem in this, in that there's like a weird psychic plague going on, so that the people who are infected by it basically become psychers in some sense or another. And this is not good on many levels. And it's kind of the reason why they're initially being left to die. But Lieutenant Farren doesn't really get this. He doesn't know what's going on with that. So that's the reason why. It culminates at the end of the book where this chick basically hired a mercenary band recruit to come take them off the planet. And this is also when basically Lieutenant Farren goes there to like get rid of the Kroot because they're Kroot, and he's a space marine, so it kind of makes sense why he'd go to get rid of him. As well as some other things that basically some other events in the books, which I don't want to spoil. I don't want to give everything away, but it ends definitely with basically Lieutenant Farren like straight up just like execution style doming her with a bolter, and you're just like, damn, that happened. It's a pivotal moment. And and basically ends there. Lieutenant Farren after this is like proved himself to the hierarchy of the Dark Angels, and he basically gets to be in the inner circle, gets to be a good Dark Angel, which means kind of is bittersweet for me. Don't like the Dark Angels. So yeah, that's basically the spoilers. Tongue-tied there. But yeah, so, like and comment, subscribe if you like the video. I'll be putting out more of these. I got quite the library in the back there of books, So just going to, talk about the books, what I think about them, if they're a good book, and what I liked about in the book that happens. See you later.